Hey guys, Jack on Wrist back on the video, and in today's video I'm excited to announce the watch that I got to replace my Rolex reference 114200. So for those that saw, a couple of videos ago I talked about selling my Rolex and just some of the reasons behind it, and really just the mindset of selling a luxury watch and why I'm selling that specific one. So if you're interested in that video, link in the top right corner. But I did end up replacing the watch, and fairly quickly, and so today I want to unveil my new Omega Seamaster 300. Now in that original video about selling the Rolex, I actually did name a couple of watches I was looking to replace it with, one of which being this Omega Seamaster 300. I was also really close on a Tudor Black Bay, I was really close on an Omega Aquaterra, but ultimately I decided on the Seamaster 300, and I'm going to go over it in this video why I picked this watch and just some of the specifics, but I'll do a full detailed review in the next video. Here is my new Omega Seamaster 300 Master Co-Axial. I'm super excited to talk about this watch, but like I said in the introduction, I'm going to be doing a full review in a future video coming soon. But in this video, I'm just going to be talking about why I love this watch and why I picked it over other options. But getting right into it, the main reason why I love this watch, the number one reason, is because of the vintage styling. For those who watched my State of the Collection video from a while back, you may have heard that my first watch is the Omega DeVille I received from my great-grandfather. Actually, I didn't receive it from him exactly, but I received it from other family members. And ever since that point, I started collecting watches and looking at watches, and I actually owned a couple other vintage Omegas. I loved Omega, the brand, from that connection, and I always got vintage ones because they were cheaper and easier for me to obtain. But a lot of question marks are involved with vintage watches. You never really know if everything's original, how the movement's going, just the condition in general. And you know, it's hard to buy vintage watches. It's hard to like vintage watches sometimes because you just don't, have all the answers sometimes. And so to have a vintage inspired watch, this one being based off the original 1957 Omega Seamaster, with a couple variations, but pretty much spot on for the most part, is really, really cool. You get to have a vintage watch or a vintage inspired watch on your wrist every single day, and you get to have all the solidity and modern features that come along with it. But of course get that cool styling. So that is my first main reason why I love this watch so much. The number two reason why I love this watch is because of the movement. It is the Omega Coaxial Caliber 8400. Now, I never used to really care too much about the movement. Obviously, I cared if it was automatic versus manual versus quartz, but I never really cared specifically what the movement could do, the specifics, everything about it. But it's really cool to not only have an open case back, but to have a movement that is so technologically advanced. And you have the Daniels coaxial escapement. It's anti-magnetic to 15,000 Gauss. And it's really, really cool. It's finished obviously beautifully. And it started to matter to me a little bit, having, a really nice looking, beautiful movement that I can look at with some nice features to it. I think the anti-magnetic feature is really probably the key to it because, you can have this in your computer, a phone, whatever, and you don't have to worry about, magnetizing the movement. I think it's really, really cool. It's supposed to also have longer service intervals, meaning you shouldn't have to service it for, you should actually be able to not service it for a long period of time, rather. And I think it's just really cool. I know a lot of people are iffy on having an open case back or a display case back on a diver, but it is a sapphire crystal, and if I'm being honest with you, I'm not going to take this diving, so I'm not really super worried about the water resistance or anything like that. And for me, it's just kind of fun to be able to look at that movement. Another minor reason why I picked this watch, and this is sort of a really weird reason specific to me, but it has a micro adjust in the clasp, something that, most watches actually don't have, and I just kept reading really good reviews about just having that feature on a watch in general. Everyone would say that once they have that feature in their watch, they can't go back to anything else, and so I really wanted to have it. I think it's really kind of cool, and you get to have that ability, that flexibility on a day-to-day basis to change it as your wrist swells and I guess unswells. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but just a nice little easy convenience feature that I really wanted. I was looking at the Rolex models, the current ones with glide lock and with that Easy Link system. Obviously, I couldn't really afford too many of those newer modern Rolexes with those features, but I wanted something like that, and this is definitely pretty much on par with all those. And probably the last main reason why I love this watch is because it goes head-to-head with the Rolex Submariner, a watch that I think is pretty much universally loved. It's a great watch. It's obviously beautiful and super iconic. But to have this, a 41 millimeter Swiss dive watch, I think it really goes head to head well with the new Rolex, which is a 41 millimeter Submariner. I think it compares just super well to that watch. I think it is I think, like I said, it just goes head to head. I think they compare really well. They both have their merits, but to me, this is basically the offbeat Rolex Submariner with a vintage twist on it, and that's kind of what I always wanted. I love it, and to me, being able to go head to head with the top of the line from Rolex is really cool. One thing I want to mention before this video ends is that I actually did brush the bracelet. It does actually come on a polished mid-link bracelet or polished center link bracelet. I really didn't like that. Not only did it show a lot of scratches, but it was a little too blingy for me. So I went with this polished, or rather brushed look. It didn't cost that much, actually only $40 at a local jeweler, or local watchmaker rather. And obviously if you're gonna go official through an Omega authorized dealer or something like that, or one of your high-end jewelers, it might cost more. But I just got it done because I really am a fan of the brushed look, and it didn't cost me that much. And that was really my only gripe with the watch, is just having the polish in the center link. I really didn't like it. Also, that person did knock off some scratches here on the clasp. I'll try to put in some before and after photos, but yeah, just one thing I want to mention for those who have a keen eye and have noticed that the bracelet is not polished in the center. Yes, that's because something was done to it. And I want to quickly mention that the Spectre version of this that comes on the bracelet does actually have an all brushed bracelet. So this is actually kind of a factory bracelet. It's something you would actually find on an Omega watch, having that center link brushed, but obviously not factory on this specific model. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think if you put together all those factors, this watch, at least for me specifically, is amazing, and I think it compares really well to some of those other watches I really liked. I really liked the Black Bay 36, but that wasn't really a full-fledged dive watch, and I really wanted the dive bezel because I used it a lot when I had previous watches. And also the same thing goes for the Aquaterra. Amazing watch, but a little bit more dressy for me, and doesn't have that dive bezel or that in the clasp adjustment, as well as the Black Bay didn't have that adjustment. And then I looked at the Black Bay 58, which is, another nice dive watch, but again, no adjustment in the clasp. And to me, it just didn't really resonate with me. I like Omega a lot, with that Omega connection to my great-grandfather, and I love the styling a little bit more, so for me, that was kind of what put it over the top and to go with this watch. I'm going to be doing a full review of this watch and breaking down some of the more specifics of it in my upcoming video, but that was pretty much it, why I love this watch. I'm in love with this watch. I'm excited to get it on wrist for a long time, and hopefully I settle on this watch and I don't change my mind and get something else. But you never know with watches. There's always the next best thing, and that's part of what makes it so exciting, and also part of what makes it so infuriating. So with that being said, that's pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and subscribe. Also check out my Instagram @JackOnWrist for photos of all my watches, including this one now. And that's pretty much it. So thank you, and please subscribe.